What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is Scottish guy Debunks American Stereotypes. It's been a while since we've done Sean.
It has been a while.
We enjoy his channel. You guys enjoy his channel as well. You guys have suggested we check out some of his travel videos. We want to see more people suggest them.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments if we should check out some of his travel videos, because he's gone around America, tried some food as well. And I'm not sure when this is going out, but we've done a few jolly videos trying food.
Yeah, they were good.
Hopefully you guys have enjoyed them. We enjoyed them, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely. This is one of the later ones. I think one's gone out already before this.
Okay, there you go. So hopefully you enjoyed it. So let us know if you want us to do the Sean versions of them. Check out Patreon as well, because we'll be uploading 48-hour access on videos every single day, one a day, won't we? So go and check it out, and it really helps us. But just watching these videos is enough. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Smash the like button, guys. Smash the subscribe button. Let's get into Scottish guy Debunks American Stereotypes. What we got?
10 stereotypes about America, and I will say right off the bat that I think there are actually 10 misconceptions about America.
Okay.
I'm going to be debunking these 10 things because a lot of them are just ludicrous. And guys, listen, I will be
Gonna be
talking
interesting
about
what they
some
are.
of the most interesting and heavy loaded points at the end of this. So you're going to want to hang on in there until the end.
Unsubscribe here.
Number one, Americans are rich. I think America is a rich country, definitely. Like the UK is a rich country.
Yeah.
Scotland's a rich country. We all live in rich countries, mostly in the northern hemisphere. But
I mean, before he says anything, our opinions, I assume, will be the same. There's rich people, but also a lot of poverty, like in the UK, like in a lot of places in the world.
A lot of countries have rich people, but they also have the complete opposite end of the scale.
Definitely, and yes, the US probably has more rich people than other countries have, but they've also got their share amount of poverty.
Yeah.
Same with the UK.
I think it would be ignorant to say like Americans are rich.
No, definitely.
does that mean every single person in America is rich? Certainly not, right? That is definitely one of the things I learned on my first days in the United States of America. Part of that trip I went with the United States Embassy was really to kind of break down these misconceptions that we have as British people, right? So they wanted to show us everything, the good and the bad and
That's
the
good,
ugly.
at least.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good thing, right? Because like we all have these built-up images of America and the wealth, right? You get to New York and you see all these massive buildings, California, San Francisco, with all the technology stuff that's going on out there. You know, all the biggest and best companies in the world appear to be from America. I used to actually work for a couple of them. And when you see all this innovation, when you see all this culture coming through on the media and on our TVs and all that kind of stuff, you think, wow, that is a rich country. Of course America's a rich country. It's stupid to think otherwise. But that does not mean everybody in America is rich, right? One of the things they took us on that tour was to see people who are in more impoverished areas. You see really fast, really quickly, there is a lot of struggle and suffering in America as well in terms of poverty. Just like there is here in the UK. We have a lot of poverty here that is not talked about. And I think that's the thing, right? We all in our countries like to celebrate our successes. For example, here in Scotland, we've got a massive homelessness crisis. We don't talk about that. We don't tell you guys in America when you're coming to Scotland, come and visit us. We've got Loch Ness Monster. We've got castles. And we've got lots of homeless people. We don't say that, but it is a fact. And I guess it's the same in America. The wealth is concentrated just like every other country in the world,
You wouldn't
right? There's a
promote
lot of very rich people in America.
your flaws, would you? You wouldn't,
definitely.
You wouldn't promote them as much as you would promote what you're good at.
Because a tourist is going to make you money, so you want to get them in. So
You
can,
don't want to say, oh, we've got so many homeless people, because you wouldn't get as many tourists. So
Definitely. No, I agree.
It's, you know.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of poor people. And I actually had one really deep experience that I would like to reference, okay? My first day in Orlando. I left the hotel like 7 in the morning because I wanted to go out and take some nice drone shots of a lake that was next to our hotel, right? I went around the lake, and when I got to the other side, there were about 5 or 6 people sleeping rough under the trees, okay? I didn't want to wake them up, so I moved about 500 yards down the way, and one of the guys who was up anyway came over and spoke to me. He was interested in my drone, and then we ended up just chatting for about 20 or 30 minutes. He told me all about his life and how much he struggles and stuff. He sleeps in the park.
Wow.
I mean, that is definitely not wealth, is it? Exactly the same as we have here in the UK. So I think these things need to be put into context. America's a rich country with a lot of amazing things in technology and finance and industry, but also there's a lot of poverty. Misconception
I love how he would just
number
chat to
2
people
that
like
I'm
that.
going to
That's
be
good.
busting. Americans only speak English. The first thing
that's
I would
not
say about
true.
that point, okay?
Let's say that we probably didn't realise how cultured it were till we did these reactions.
No, I think it's, I feel like every country you can't assume is one language.
No.
The chances, like, there's probably no country in the world that everybody
Only
speaks
one language.
But I feel like we didn't know how many other languages.
How many other and how common it was to hear other languages. Obviously there's going to be a few other languages in there, but I just assumed it was majority English, the odd ones here and there. But
yeah,
no,
the odd
it's-
ones like you don't like Spanish, you're Mexican,
Yeah,
but there's a lot.
there's a lot, and it's completely cultured, which is awesome.
Let's not even talk about America first. Let's talk about the UK. The level of people here in the UK, and up until very recently, I was one of them, can only speak one language, English. That's
You
the
can
only
speak three.
language the majority of people in the United Kingdom
can't.
can speak. If you find a Scottish person who was born and bred in Scotland, or an
I
English
tried.
person who was born and bred in England,
I was gonna
they
be really mean then,
have
but I'm not
no
gonna say it.
I'm going to say, yeah, let's not get into my language speaking. I try my best. Let's just say that. I try my best. But Millie can speak 3 languages. I can speak English.
You do
kind of.
English, James,
Oh, I just...
and
Oh, now you just be mean.
and something else.
And something else.
I'm not gonna say it.
language skills
Having a good day.
whatsoever. And then they go travelling around Europe, they go to France, they go to Spain especially, and they expect the locals to be able to speak English. So before we start lobbing bricks, let's make sure our house isn't made of glass. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. I can't speak for America on this front, but I can say that in the UK we are really, really bad at languages. The only reason I learned another language is because my wife is Brazilian, so I learned Portuguese.
Oh,
and
wow.
it took me 10 years. I am not naturally gifted with languages, but most
Fair
people
play.
here are not. I met a lot of people, especially in New York and especially in Florida, that spoke loads of different languages, certainly Spanish. And I think that's one of the awesome things about America's immigrant culture, right? Is the fact that lots of people have these backgrounds from all around the world who can speak different languages. So that is definitely a myth, in my opinion.
That helps.
Here's a misconception for you, that Americans are fat. I don't know the specific statistics about obesity in America. I know they are pretty high, but I don't know exact numbers, right? That's one thing, fair enough. But listen, in Scotland, we are the most unhealthy nation in all of Europe. We are
They do
the sick
battle a
man
lot.
of Europe.
They
That's what they
do.
call us, okay? We, I think, have the single lowest life expectancy in Europe and Scotland.
Wow,
If
I
not
didn't know
the
that.
most, it's definitely in the bottom 3, right? A lot of factors involved in that, smoking, drinking, but mostly it's because of our diet. We really, really badly here in Scotland. A lot of people don't know that, right? We are the sick man of Europe for a good reason. We are very unhealthy here in Scotland. So how can we have this misconception of America, that Americans are all unhealthy and eat loads of junk food? And of course, I know that is true as well, guys. Like, and here's another thing I noticed about America, right? Of course, you might have a lot of people in America overweight. Big deal. You actually also have a lot of people who are at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I've never, ever in my life seen so many really buff people than I saw in America.
Really
one way or
buff
another.
people.
Like, who cares what people look like and how they are, right? It's not something for anybody to judge. Certainly not us in Scotland, okay? We are nobody to judge on this. Number 4,
I think
okay?
that's important at the end of the day, isn't it? Obviously, you want to be as healthy as you can so you can live your life.
But like, so that's a point. Like
Yeah.
you want to be healthy for yourself, but it's still not. If you're choosing to be really unhealthy, it's still not my right to tell you.
Oh,
that
no.
you're
Oh,
really
yeah, no,
healthy.
definitely.
But-
I was just going to get to it. As long as you're happy within yourself, as long as you're
I mean,
happy within
promote
yourself.
healthiness, because like at the end of the day, that's if you're healthy, you're gonna.
Definitely.
There's definitely pros to that.
There's supposed to, but if you're happy
If
with...
you're happy, you're happy. It's
Definitely.
what it is.
It's about enjoying life. Life can be short at times as well. Make sure you're happy first and foremost, and then the other things potentially come along with happiness as well, which is awesome, isn't it? So we hope you guys are all okay.
Americans do not travel. I think this misconception is based on the fact that something like only 30% of Americans have passports. Is that
don't
right?
need
Something
them,
like
do
that?
they?
Whereas in the UK, we've got a very high number of people with passports. But nonetheless, let me just introduce you to something very quickly, guys, okay? That is the Scottish tourism boom that we have been experiencing here in our country over the last 2 or 3 years. We have been exploding in tourists here in Scotland for a number of reasons. Outlander is definitely partly responsible for that. The amazing show
not seen
and
that.
book written by American author Diana Gabaldon, all about the Scottish clan systems, filmed right here in Scotland. Numbers have exploded by multiples of hundreds here in Scotland
wow.
at all of our tourism sites. And who's responsible? Who do we think is responsible for that explosion in numbers of people coming to Scotland? It's mostly Americans. Outlander is an American phenomenon. Outlander has fans from all around the world. Let me just say that. Everywhere in the world there are Outlander fans, but the most part, the biggest fan base is in America. Listen, last year, around about 500,000 Americans came to Scotland. That is a lot of people. Okay, so yeah, maybe when you're talking about all of the United States as a whole, it's got like how many hundreds of millions of people?
Yeah.
The percentage of that of people who actually travel abroad might be small, but listen, there are numbers of factors to think about here. For a start, America is huge. A lot of the states on their own are bigger than the UK. The United States of America is like the size of continental Europe. And that is one of the big criticisms I have of people here in Scotland and the UK. There's loads of places
it's
here
beautiful.
that people just
Yeah.
don't know about, have never been to in their lives. You know how many people here in Scotland and the Central Belt never go to the Scottish Highlands? It's Staggering, all right? So if I lived in the States, there's so many places I would want to explore before even thinking about going abroad. This is
Makes
a really
sense.
bizarre misconception, okay? Americans are backwards when it comes to science. This one I find particularly bizarre, okay?
I feel like Americans find
I thought it'd be like the
stuff more.
forefront. Yeah, definitely the forefront.
yeah.
Interesting.
Huh?
Yeah, I'd say forefront, innovating.
I'm not
Fair
sure about
enough, there are a lot, it seems, of, for example, climate skeptics from America who make a lot of noise. But there are an equal amount of people on the other side from America as well. So I think this is just one of the clear problems of trying to lump everybody in together in the same pot and saying they're all the same, because they're really not. And like,
There's a
just
lot of
think
people
about this
as
for a
well
second.
came
Yeah.
from.
NASA, the leaders of space technology,
Yeah,
travel, exploration in the world, always has been until now, is from the United States of America.
Yeah.
Like, who can argue against that? NASA have done
That's
some
good
spectacular
point.
Exactly,
things.
like-
And also, as I mentioned earlier on, technology in America is like way ahead of everybody else in a lot of different sectors and departments. Medicine and healthcare, all that technology comes from the States. So yes, there might be a lot of people who are not really into science and really kind of understand the things that are going on in the world, but there are just as many people who really, really do, much more
Yeah,
than we do. So
definitely.
there you go. That is
I
definitely
feel like
something
as
that
well, there's also a lot of them throughout the world. I think we spoke about this on a video which you may or may not have already seen. But there's a lot of skeptics so far all over the world. But I think maybe it seemed like more in America because there's more people.
Yeah, that's
So there seems to be
yeah.
more, but
It's
there's
just
also
actually, when you look at it population-wise, probably is about the same as everywhere
probably
else.
the same percentage-wise, and then the percentage of the other side, which
It's
is
just small people.
innovating, is probably the same as
Yeah.
well. But there's just more because there's more people in the US. I think that is just the thing,
I
isn't
think
it?
that's fair enough. Yeah.
should be busted. Another misconception. America is a country where religious fanatics rule. This is something that's really, really
Okay.
deep
Don't know, I
and
looked at you.
multi-layered, multifaceted. But I think the thing is, with this point, it's more prevalent, much more prevalent in certain states than the others. Bible Belt, for example, very heavily Christian, but that doesn't mean that the whole country is. I met so many people, especially in the north, who were atheists. It's a very big mix.
Yeah,
and
very
there's also
cultured.
people from all sorts of religions in America. I was even invited to see some of the multi-faith stuff that goes on from people from all different types of religious communities.
Oh,
I was
wow.
very
Okay.
interested in New York, for example, to see areas that were very heavily influenced, for example, by Roman Catholicism, especially from the Italian communities. And then there was like the areas that were dominated more by Orthodox Jews, and also areas with a lot of Muslims. There's a very big mix of religious diversity in America,
Yeah.
and I think that's cool. And the way that we look at it in Scotland definitely is different, right? And let me explain why. Scotland is an old country, right? We have been doing religion, we have been doing Christianity here in Scotland for literally thousands of years,
Yeah.
way before the United States of America was even founded or even thought about. And I think the natural progression when you take a time period like 1,000 years, for example, very, very few people now are Christian compared to 20 years ago or compared to 100 years ago. Especially the younger generations, it is not a Christian country anymore. A lot of our churches, for example, are mere relics. You know, we have churches struggling to find people to fill
I feel
spaces
like that's
as
quite true
reverend
in
ministers
England as
and
well.
I think it's
In the UK, I feel like religion is slowly not going out, but more people, like the new generations, are not getting involved in religion
it's not quite as big of a thing.
as it was back then.
Yeah, I just said a little bit that Scotland maybe is more of a bigger thing, only because I honestly don't know the full answers, but I know that the Scottish Rangers Celtic, who you support, is kind of a religious statement as well. And that's obviously a massive rivalry in Scotland. So I think there's that aspect of it. In England,
Yeah.
it's not so much. But
I just feel like the new generations are not.
it's not
not-
as much as a staple. It's not every single Sunday.
Yeah, whereas before, like maybe in like I don't know, my grandparents, like my nan
It was a
is
must, wasn't
religious,
it?
but she had that growing up from her parents.
Definitely.
My mum kind of had an influence, but I feel like maybe even my mum slowly became part of the generation that,
No, definitely.
and then it gets passed down.
It's just different times, isn't it? No, definitely.
The world
and
is changing.
priests. It's just a thing that happens over large periods of time, right? Number 7, Americans are workaholics. Obsessed with work.
You don't get many holidays.
You know what? That's true.
But is that-
I have never been anywhere.
Does that make them? I mean, that does make them workaholics
Yeah.
in a sense. But so to me, a workaholic is somebody who loves work. Do they get a choice?
No,
That's how I would perceive it.
No,
Like,
I
if
think
you're a
it's someone who
workaholic
just
or just
can't
does
stop working.
But they can't stop because of not choice.
No, but I've always heard, and on these reactions, we have heard that they will happily do overtime a lot more. They're not straight out the
Right.
door like in British offices most of the time. It's 5 minutes before.
Because I know,
everyone's
like,
talking
they
about
can't.
leaving.
They only have a number of weeks holiday. But
Yeah.
would they choose to have more if they could?
I assume they would choose more, but I think they do work longer hours, have less breaks. Obviously, maternity and stuff like that they have less of as well. I think it is just a pretty standard thing that they work more. I think it is. Let us know in the comments what you guys think on that one.
We're in a world where people are so committed to work and that work ethic, and I think this is actually something to be proud of, something to be celebrated.
Definitely.
Why is that a bad thing? Why is this a stereotype that anybody should kind of pour scorn on? What is the American dream? Is the American dream something that's real or not? Whether it is or not, today it's not something for me to decide, but what I can say is it has been for a lot of people, and it does seem like the place, and I definitely get this impression in America. If you go there and you work hard and you really follow a path, you can be basically anybody you want to be. And
Which is
listen, I've
awesome.
got first-hand experience of this. I worked for 2 massive American companies when I worked in London for 5 years. Both of them were banks based on Wall Street. And when the bosses from America used to come over, I think frankly they were quite shocked at how many days holiday we get here in the UK and like how quickly we leave the office at 5 p.m.
Straight out.
because apparently in their offices they stay until 10 p.m.
Wow.
They don't get hardly any holidays compared to what we get. I don't know. I'd like to know what you guys think about this point. Definitely down in the comments below.
Yeah, let us know.
Americans
Yeah.
work hard,
Interesting.
probably don't get as many holidays as we do. But is it a good or a bad thing? I don't know. I don't think it's bad necessarily. Next one, okay? Americans are loud. Americans are loud. And what the heck is the problem with that? Now, in
Yeah,
a
we've heard
Nord-
the stereotype loads, haven't we? I mean, just
There's just no problem. What's the issue?
outgoing, loud.
There's definitely loud,
It can
not
be a
going.
good thing.
You like British people, but you just kind of just keep it to yourself if you don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. I think.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
at all. No.
Northern European context, let me tell you, Scottish people are actually considered pretty loud, and we are loud.
Scottish
We
are
like to talk a lot.
outgoing
I
and
think I'm an
loud.
example of that. But I consider nations that are quiet to be a little bit less fun, less outgoing. What I experience in America are people who are very outgoing, and that comes across as loud, but really it's not. I remember being on a cruise in the Mediterranean about 5 or 6 years ago, right? Bumped into a lot of Americans, and I had a blooming great time with them. We were up
Awesome.
partying all night, and I could be as loud as I wanted, and I enjoyed myself. And listen, only a couple of weeks ago, a friend came to me and said they went on a holiday, and like it was a little bit overshadowed because there was a lot of really loud Americans there. And I couldn't help thinking to myself, like, blooming hell, enjoy yourself. That's what life is, right? Make friends, go crazy, have a party. Number 9, and like as I say, we're getting to the meat of this, but this is one I can debunk right away. Americans are rude. My experience is Americans are not necessarily
so.
rude. What they are is more direct, okay? And especially in
I
places
think that goes with the outgoing, doesn't it?
Yeah, they just get to the point. Don't
They
they?
get to
And
the
I actually
point.
prefer that.
Yeah,
I prefer people-
definitely.
I don't like people beating around the bush.
I'm
Just
completely the same.
just say it how it is.
Just say how it is.
If you have a problem, just say it.
Exactly. No beating around bush. You're not trying to be awkward about it. You either get
Yeah.
on, you don't, or whatever. And I am with you. I'm with you on that.
like New York, I find people there are very direct, and it's not rude. They come to you and they'll say what they think. I think it's funny that in New York, for example, when there's something going on in the traffic or somebody bumps into you, sometimes if they get annoyed, they'll just say it. It's not like being rude, it's just being upfront and direct. But on the opposing side, a lot of Americans I met were so friendly, so kind, and so
There's
helpful.
a lot of friendly ones.
Yeah.
More so than I had experienced in many countries around the world, let me tell
Especially
you.
you
That is
legends.
something I want to debunk. People from every state, people from every background I met, rich, poor, doesn't matter where they were from, I met lots of really amazingly nice, kind people. So it's just something that's not true. And that leads me nicely onto the last point, and this is heavy, loaded, but I think it's something that we need to discuss absolutely, okay? And that is that Americans are ignorant. A lot of people around
Okay.
the world always say this about Americans without even really knowing them or even going to America. They'll say, Americans are ignorant of the rest of the world. And you know what? From my perspective, to say that Americans are ignorant is an ignorant comment. Because at the end of the day, there are ignorant people anywhere you go in the world, right?
Exact same as the others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
British people will be ignorant because they couldn't really care.
You can't.
There'll be Americans, there'll be Colombian, I don't know why I say Colombians, but there'll be Colombians, Brazilians, Portuguese. There'll be people who's arrogant.
You can't.
Ignorant.
You can't justify the whole of America as.
Definitely not, because there's so many people, especially in our
And
comments.
also, like, yeah, you just can't do that. You.
I mean, the amount of people in our comments that want to know more about Jersey, England, know so much about, know more about England than us.
Yeah, you can't say all Americans are ignorant.
Nah, definitely.
I mean, there's some, probably, definitely some,
Definitely some, but there's some everywhere.
But there's some in every country.
Definitely.
Right? Including here in Scotland. We've got a lot of ignorant people here who really don't know about other cultures and other places, and they don't know about America. That is for sure. Listen, I was probably very ignorant on my first trip to America as well. I'm an open-minded person. I like to go places and really just experience it and just go with the flow, right? I guess one thing on my first trip when I went, a lot of the talk of that trip was on heavy subjects that we don't really understand here in the UK, okay? Things like gun culture. Because that's something that we just don't understand here. We don't get it because we don't have it. It's not part of our society. It's not something that we even think about. I'd never ever seen a gun in my life until I went to America. So when I went there for the first time and I saw guns, a lot of guns, it was like, oh my God, like a bit of a shock to the system. Does that mean that I'm wrong to think like that? No, it doesn't. But at the same time, as a Scottish person, as a European going to America and kind of seeing that culture and being in that culture, so it's wrong for me to come to America and put my standards based on my society and how my society is set up on how it is over there. It's just wrong, it's not right, it doesn't work. That is ignorance on our behalf. A lot of people have been going through my old videos of that trip and seeing the fact that I was out there on a bit of a gun day, and that day was set up by the US Embassy to really kind of immerse us in that culture. And you know what? To take somebody who's never been in that culture and shove them in at the deep end, literally, it's not necessarily dangerous, but it could definitely lead to misunderstandings. See, for example, how I was handling a gun very nervously, like, and I just hope you realize it's not something like me coming there and saying you're wrong or anything like that. It's just saying it's not part of my culture, I don't understand it. And I'm definitely willing to, like, investigate and have a look into it. And I think I did that, right? I got into the deep end. I went to a shooting range. I didn't particularly enjoy the experience. That doesn't make me wrong. That doesn't make me a wimp or anything like that. Like a lot of people have been suggesting. It's just different, right? But at least I can actually step over to the other side and look. And I think partly that is what the important issue is on both sides, right? Ignorance is a really loaded word that doesn't really mean anything unless you put context into it. But equally, I met so many people in America who were really open-minded and knew a lot about different cultures, knew a lot about my culture in Scotland, and we had some really awesome, deep conversations about these types of stuff with people who were really interested in listening and what I had to say, and vice versa. So, you know, I've met ignorant people all around the world. Is America any more ignorant than anywhere else? I don't think so. Guys, listen, I would love to know exactly what you thought about all of these down in the comments below.
Let us know in the comments below.
Sean's it was a good video.
It was a good video, wasn't it? Sean's link's in the description, so go and check him out as well. Smash the subscribe button here. We have been pre-recording. I think we said everything we had to say on all of it, don't we?
Yeah, it was interesting. Different ones as well.
Definitely interesting. I feel like on my gun one though, I definitely would love to give it a go at a gun range. I don't think I'd ever do anything more. But do you know what I mean, in terms of want to own my own gun or anything, that's just because we're not used to it, like you say, it's completely different. But I think just...
Looks like going clay pigeon shooting here or whatever.
Yeah, definitely, just the experience.
It's in a safe environment.
Because like you say, it is just something we never ever experienced, completely out of our mind. And smash that like button, guys, smash the subscribe button and watch the video.
Have a fantastic day.
And we will see you, legends, in the next one. Peace.